something here first.
Okay.
The building that we're in came out of here. The visitor center is probably the oldest building, so we're going to come back to it here in a little while, and I'll tell you more about that. But welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces, and so many of you here know more about Calico Rock than I do and all that. But we're not going to have any questions as we go because we want to keep the tour moving. And if we stop, for whatever. So after we complete the tour and we're back here, if anybody has questions for me or whatever else, we'll do that. Calico Rock used to be really a booming railroad town back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and the railroad actually started coming along in the early part of the century there, about 1903 or 4, and so a lot of what we're talking about is the results of that. This was the White River Division of the Reserve Pacific Railroad.
It's these horseless carriages.
And that's a Harley. I think they have a pretty distinctive sound. But anyway, this was the Missouri, Memphis to Kansas City. And the train stopped here in Calico Rock every morning at about 8 o'clock, and the town was really full at that time. And about 10 o'clock then, after they got their mail here, they rotated. From the rest of the day, it was pretty dull. But we're going to start our tour today out. Now this was originally a bank, and we'll hear more about that as we go out here because the two banks merged. So we're going to go out here and let Mr. Rodman tell us about the bank. Mr. Rodman was the head teller of the bank at that time, and so if you have, well, let's just walk out there and see what he has to say. What do you think about that? To our tour.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bank of Calico Rock. I'm not much of a talker, but I'm going to try to tell you a little bit about our bank. Don't pay attention to these folks. They're trying to get a loan. We're still negotiating, but we'll take a little break here and tell you a little bit about this bank. My name is E.C. Rodman, and I'm the head cashier. And this fine brick building was built in 1912 to house the People's Bank. And in 1914, the People's Bank merged with the Bluff City Bank, which is down at the end of the block, to become the Bank of Calico Rock. By 1928, our bank was capitalized at $25,000. And we had a surplus of $14,000. Now, one of our first stockholders, Mr. W.J. Kopp, known to his friend Judge Kopp, his son, Dr. Noah Kopp, has his medical offices upstairs over this office. It's his offices. And he's now president of the bank and a stockholder and a board member. Our motto is the Bank of Calico Rock, where you can confidently expect to find the banking services that you want with the resources and willingness to serve. And we stand by that all the time. Our experienced staff includes brothers Roy and Grady Perryman. Roy is the head teller and Grady is our bookkeeper. Now, if you would, take note of our walk-in vault back there. It will protect your money and valuable papers from fire, flood, earthquake, and dynamite. Whoa. Yes, sir. Most of our customers have savings accounts which pay interest quarterly. We also provide checking accounts mostly to business people. All of our transactions are entered in ledgers by hand, and these are regularly audited. Banking hasn't changed a lot since 1912, though we do keep up with the most up-to-date tabulating machine. We have one over there around the corner. And typewriters. Our clerks, Bethel Lucy Arnold and Lola Fern Dillard and Merle Kankey, type contracts, loans, and mortgages, and letters on the finest Smith Corona typewriters. Latest to come out. We always try to keep up. The Bank of Calico Rock takes pride in offering our local businesses loans so that they can finance appliances, whatever. We also do home mortgages and land purchase mortgages. So many new products coming on the market that we have to keep our merchants up to date so they can offer financing. We loan money for trucks and automobiles, stoves for heating and cooking. Also, we have furniture and farm equipment loans. And since we have electricity in Calico Rock, we're now loaning money for such things as refrigerators, radios, Victrolas, and other electronical gadgets. You know?
Don't forget cows and pigs.
Cows and pigs. Well, yeah, we do loan on things on the hoof if you're dressed properly. As for myself, I went to work at the Bluff City Bank in 1909 when I was 21 years old. After the merger, I continued at this location and was soon named head cashier. After returning from service in World War I was really pleased to know that they offered me my job back, and I gladly accepted it. As you know, we've gone through a Great Depression. The Bank of Calico Rock has done all we can do to keep our families in their homes and our business people in their businesses. I want you to know there's never been a run on this bank. Everybody know what a run is? Well, our people trusted us and had enough confidence in us. We've never had a run on this bank. We stayed solvent throughout the years. When you were outside, you probably noticed this building is a lot bigger than this room. And there was many things happening here. The bank offices were back in the back, and then behind that, we rented location to a publisher. And then upstairs there were offices. Dr. Kopp has his office up there, right up over this. And over the years, other offices have been up there. Let's see. Mr. U.E. Hudson. Some of you may know the name Hudson or been around here a long time. Mr. U.E. Hudson had his United Farm Agency and Insurance office up there. Of course, that worked very well for us because we made mortgages for his home loans and farm loans. So other doctors over the years, dentists, have had offices up there. If you notice, there's a door right out here. That's where you went upstairs to the office up there. We are privileged to have two of our employees with us today. These ladies spent, one told me she spent 14 years in this building before they moved to the bank building up behind up here in 1970, I believe it was. I hope you will enjoy your walk back down Main Street. And if we can do anything to be of service to you, just feel free to come back. I'll be done with these fine folks here in just a little while, so I'll be available if you want to come back in.
Well, we certainly thank you, Mr. Rodman.
Well, thank you, sir.
That's actually more than we ever wanted to know about.
I understand I'm not much of a talker, you know.
Nevertheless.
Well, I was here during the World War II. We had troop trains going through, and we'd have to go out and watch the soldiers wave. They were in our officer. And I came across during the flood in 1945 on a boat. We got on the steps, and we had no electricity. We had these machines that go like this.
Go ahead, you want to offer something?
I wasn't here near that soon.
No, of course not.
She's a young
She's a young whippersnapper.
I just remember that we had to go to the depot to the bathroom.
No water. And we had bond drives and more
Yes.
bond drives.
Yes. All right. Well, in there, you notice these, the arch. This is the only building here that has that type of architecture. Is the with the Well, I think kind of neat myself. Yeah, this was the at one time back in the 20s, an office of Mr. Cosby, who was an attorney, and he was also the agent for the Federal Land Bank and made some type of loans out here. But then in the early 20s, or I think it says maybe here 24 or so, I'm not sure about the exact date, but this was the office of the Calico Rock Progress,
1906.
which is a local newspaper, and he was here for several years, Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks was married to one of the great historians of Calico Rock, Audrey Brooks, who came on a covered wagon from Hardy, Arkansas, with her dad, Mr. Garner, who actually built most of the buildings on the lower Main Street there. So the Garners and the Rands, Mr. Rand built this building and some of the others. So those two names are really prominent in Calico Rock history. Well, we're not going in there, but let's go into the next door here, and we'll meet a couple of other citizens of Calico Rock. Here, you notice, I don't know where you did or not, but anyway, there's 2 stories to this building also, and this was a hotel. We're really fortunate to have the proprietor of the Wiseman Hotel here with us today, and this is Miss Maddie Wiseman here. Would you tell something about your business here?
Well, I'd be delighted to. Thank you so much. I thank you for all coming. I know it's a hot day, and I hope you don't mind my fan. Just a moment. Okay, that's much better. Like I said, I am Maddie Wiseman. My husband, Tip Sr., and I own the Wiseman Hotel. And we moved here in 1912, and this building was owned by Ford Estes, and we rented it from him. And the center was the staircase, and then the lobby was on one side, and the dining room and kitchen was on the other side. And we live in the back behind the lobby, my family and extended family and I. Now, we have 14 rooms upstairs. They're all nice and clean and fresh. I make all the bed linen by hand, and I do the cooking, most of the cooking. I do most all of the cleaning. In my spare time, I make the doilies that go on the backs of all of the furniture. Our overnight guests are generally passengers of the train or workers. We share a bath upstairs, all the rooms do, but I am so pleased to say that we do have flush toilet. Yes, thank you so much, thank you so much. Okay, now this, the Rand was built by Nick Rand, and he has this 2-story building, and you'll hear his name. He has lots of buildings and lots around here. He started a mercantile business in a little community called Wild Cherry, that's north of Calico Rock. That since has gone by the wayside. And then after his death, I want to get this just right, it was also to Yateman Gray Adams Company, headed by T.E. Miller, and they were in the wholesale grocery operation. Now, myself and Tip, like I said, run this place. Tip does the maintenance, the deliveries. He checks people in. He carries their bags. I don't know where he is right now. Probably down waiting for the train to come in, most likely. I also like to tend the flower beds, and that's out front here on the wall. You know, it's a really good life, but we don't get away a whole lot. We do serve lunches to people. You would call them lunch. We call them dinner. Dinner is lunchtime, and it's served family style in the dining room. And there's just big platters of food and big bowls of things, and it makes everybody kind of happy to be sharing and passing around. We have our guests. We have people who just stop in from town, or if they're traveling through, they'll stop and have a meal with us. When we're having our meal, we don't have a lot of rules, like you have to chew with your mouth closed or anything like that. But we absolutely have one firm rule. We do not allow any whiskey or liquor of any kind.
Boo.
No liquor. We leave that to Lum over there on the other side of the street. That's his doings. Now, our son got married, wedded Ethel McNeil, and they have our precious, precious granddaughter, Peggy. Peggy is such a help around the hotel. She's so cute. And one of the railroad workers knows how much Peggy loves bananas. So he always brings Peggy a banana, and she'll give it to me, and I will either make a banana pudding or I'll make banana bread, all because that worker thinks Peggy ought to have whatever Peggy wants, and she wants a banana. Now, there's parking for the automobiles out back. It is covered parking, by the way, but Peggy and her little friends know. Absolutely. If there are automobiles back there, that means there are guests here, and they do not play back there. And they're very good to follow grandmother's rules. So, thank you for joining me. Come by for dinner anytime. I would like now, if it suits you, to introduce my good friend, Mrs. Hall.
Thank you, Mrs.
You're very welcome, Mrs. I appreciate that.
If I can have everyone just move down this way, I'm going to stand in this doorway down here. And I'm A.D. Hall. And when the Wisemans closed their hotel, Mr. Denver Roller bought this building. And now Mr. Roller owns over 30 funeral parlors throughout Arkansas and Missouri. And he established the McClure Funeral Home in this space. In 1947, he decided to build a partition down the middle of this building. And he rented the one side to Jim and Billy Clinkenbeard, and they opened Family Shoe and Dry Goods, which is still with us today. And then my husband Lawrence and I were asked to manage Hall's funeral home. Now, fortunately, you good people are not suffering bereavement at this time, but if you were, we are here to serve you in your hour of need. We offer a full line of caskets, which you can show right beside our stage. Now, behind me is our slumber room, where your loved one is laid to rest, and we welcome your friends and relatives to pay their last respects. And this room is also suitable for funeral services if you would like to have a funeral here. Now, beyond the slumber room, we have our embalming room. Now, I know you good people do not like to talk about such things, but I want you to know we have the very finest embalming equipment. Let me tell you a little bit about our hearses. We have several vehicles that can transport your loved ones to our facility, and we always bring them in very discreetly through the back door. Now, they leave by the same route to their final resting place, and that might be Roselawn Cemetery or Spring Creek Cemetery, or the cemetery of your choice. We also serve our community, and are quite proud that if someone needs to be transported to a local hospital, we do use our hearses for that purpose. Now, a gentleman by the name of Roman Howard and our son Tommy, well, they dig and very carefully dig all the graves by hand. And so, if the men encounter a rock that's too hard or too big to move, and that happens quite frequently here, well, they might have to employ a little dynamite in order to dig the grave. There used to be a tradition here that you always dug the grave the day of the funeral, because people believe that if you dug it and a grave sat open overnight, that another person would pass away. Well, of course, we don't do that so much nowadays, and we generally dig the grave the day before funeral services. Now, Tommy, our son, does tell a funny story on himself. One day he was down to the cemetery, and he decided he was digging the grave, and he was 6 feet down, and he was smoothing out the bottom, and he was being very meticulous about it. Well, he suddenly realized that he didn't hear anybody. And so he kind of stood on tiptoe, and he was trying to look out there was everybody. He started hollering. Well, everybody had gone to lunch. So here he was, stuck down in the bottom of the grave. Well, he couldn't climb out, so he just had to sit there and wait. And when everybody got back, they had a good laugh, and Tommy missed his lunch. Now, if you so desire, we can also supply and put up tents for graveside services. And of course, many of our funerals are held in churches, but for some, the entire service is held outside. And I find that, like on a day like today, when it's so beautiful, it's a comfort to have a graveside service outside and to hear the birds singing and the trees rustling. I think it just makes people feel better. Now, the gravestones are all y'all's responsibility. We do not do the gravestones. There are several men here in town that do engrave the gravestones for you. Now, I'm going to suggest that even though marble is pretty, don't use marble for tombstones. Not in this climate. Your best bet is going to be granite. Now, if you want something really fancy, you can order from a mail order catalog, and several of our merchants here on Main Street can help you with that. Those stones will come fully engraved. They'll arrive by train. So what about us? Well, the Halls live upstairs in what used to be the Wiseman Hotel guest rooms. Now, we had to knock down a few walls, but we do have a parlor and a kitchen, and then, of course, our bedrooms. Now, you may have heard that we do have a pool table out back, and Tommy and some of his friends, well, they do shoot pool occasionally. In fact, I believe you can talk to your narrator. He has been known to come down and shoot a game of pool from time to time. Well, it was so good of you to stop by, and I'm not going to keep you. I know you have a lot of other stops on your tour, but thank you so much for visiting Hall's Funeral Home, and you all just enjoy your stay, and I hope I don't see any of you too soon.
Thank you.
It was a print shop? Is that what he said? Yeah. Remake?
Yes, I told him about this building.
Oh, did
Billy.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, it was a print shop.
Yes, yeah. Calico Rock Progress.
Okay.
So you can see, look, aren't those windows and stuff, that in that architecture really something? I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, well, for the sun, sure, because it's hot. Yeah. Okay, come on, and we're going to go through this building and then over and stop for a minute and look.
In the far side of it, see there's a row of posts there?
Yes.
And about 2/3 of that side.
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
So see, they worked this way, and then when they got here, they made an entrance here to come into this building. And then as we keep going, we'll see where they knocked a hole in the wall on the other side and went into that building. So they actually have three buildings. Okay, come on, we'll go this way. This is had been started out, I believe this is the oldest continuing business, is the drugstore, which occupied this building back in the late 1800s, and then along in the 1900s, well, I'll let Mr. Evans tell about that here in just a moment. But before we see the pharmacist here, let's let the soda jerk over here talk to us a little bit. He looks like he's wanting to speak up, so go right ahead there.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Howdy, I'm the soda jerk here, and started working for Mr. Armstrong along with Maple Harris and Arlene King. It was really hot in the summer, so Mr. Armstrong was dusting right there in that front door, and he pulled the air through it, because the planing mill across the street throws sawdust everywhere, and you'd see Maple Harris dusting it off all the time and whistling. Mr. Perryman opens the business at 6 o'clock in the morning for all the plain mill workers, and they'll stop.
What are you doing?
Well, you were whistling the Star Spangled Banner, so I was standing at attention.
They'll stop in, and then they'll go by the post office and get their mail and a soft drink or smoke a cigar. At 9:30, the town's pretty empty, as usual. Mr. Perryman will sit down on the bench with all the other store owners. This soda fountain, as you can see, has one counter, 3 booths. We offer banana splits, but we don't keep the bananas because we don't get the orders often enough. So I'll send Earlene across the street to Estes Grocery to grab us a banana. We also do not keep ice. We freeze a big old sheet of it in the freezer, and Earlene will get it out and put it in a tote sack and smash it with a hammer on the floor. In 1969, Mr. Perryman will move to Highway 56, where Mitchell's Park Pharmacy still sits today. And today, this is Jim and Billy Clinton Beer's Ice Cream Parlor. Old-fashioned, you can sit down, look in the mirror, and imagine yourself in the 1940s. Smile. Mr. Perryman.
Yeah, good.
Well, I'm Leonard Evans. My brother and I, Levi Evans, bought this in about 1913, but the actual drugstore opened up about 1879. Two people, Mr. Roby and Mr. Galloway. In 1883, two more men bought it, Mr. Sheep and Mr. Goodman. And they, like we, mixed their own drugs and everything and put the right stuff in, put like that, and then they had a bottle, they put a cork on it. And then the person came and bought the drug and brought it home. They could bring the bottle back and get either 2 or 3 cents back each time they brought it back. And so this continued. In about 1903, Mr. Nick Rand built a building, and his business was in that building, and this drugstore moved to that location, and I think this may be it right here. And so you have a continuing business, you have druggists that mix their own stuff, and one tradition continued all the way through Mr. Reed Perryman, and that was one night brand itch ointment. It was a little bit of grease, and what was the other thing?
Sulfur and grease.
Sulfur and grease, and you just can't beat that combination for if you need itch ointment. So this continued on, and then, but this was this store was a landmark in the town, and people came here for the soda fountain treats. The foremost ice cream sign has been here since the 1940s, when a Mr. Armstrong owned this, and he had a man who was his pharmacist. So you have the foremost ice cream, and I believe you have this right here that was along there about that time as well. Now, in about 1951, a young man named Reed Mac Perryman just graduated from pharmacy school in Clarksville, Arkansas, what was in the College of the Ozarks. And he came, and by that time, his dad knew that someone needed to buy the drugstore. And so his dad loaned him the money, and then over the years he paid his dad back as the drugstore profited. But the problem was Reed wasn't even 21 years old when he graduated, and nobody would accept his prescriptions way down a Little Rock where all the authority was. And so Mr. Oliver Cheney, who had a store right across the street, knew some folks, and he also knew the Perrymans, and he got in touch with the people in Little Rock and said, I vouch for him, and if anything goes wrong, I'll pay. Right now, let him fill these prescriptions and take care of these people in Calico Rock, which he did. Mr. Cheney eventually was a state senator and was also Commissioner of Revenue under Governor Orland Barnes. So the drugstore continues, and as indicated, in 1969 it moved out to the highway and is now Mitchell's Pharmacy. And when I first moved here 2.5 years ago, at night, since my house is right around the corner and right across the street from the hospital, I'm Mr. Campbell now, not Mr. Evans. When she left the light on, you know, the big sign, that helped me know where to turn. But if it was off, I missed the turn 3 times in the space of 1 week because it was too dark. So I told her, now she keeps it lit at night just for me, and I appreciate that. Anyway, glad you're here, and if you need any drugs, I'll be glad to spin around something, and Mr. Perryman will too, and I think you'll be just fine, especially the itch ointment, if you need any of that.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Have you got any that in the Perigord?
A Paragoric?
What is it called?
Well, the long story about that, which we don't have time. I'll tell you later. But I wanted to point out a couple of things that shocked my memory a while ago. You heard one of the tellers out at the bank said that when they needed to go to the restroom, they had to go to the train station, all the way down to the depot. And So the first indoor plumbing restroom of any business in Calico Rock was put in the back of the drugstore. So what happened then? Then the girls from the bank, they came to the drugstore. It was kind of a steady stream through here from the girls out there. One of the friends.
Guess who paid the water bill?
Well, anyway, I can tell you a lot of things, but we had a cold stove, which that's the flue right there. And then there was one place, and I've told Billy about this, where a man fell through the floor once, right back there in that spot. And after that happened, the landlord, who was Dr. Kopp, had a new floor put in. The flooring under here, the joists are so like this, so you can see this is put in as a diagonal. This is the floor that was put in. This floor is over 60 years old. And the first air-conditioned building in Calico Rock, you heard Mr. Trotter here, the soda jerk, tell you about or if you heard it, the flooring mill and all the sawdust from the flooring mill was pulled in through the screen doors right there by a big 4-foot square exhaust fan in the back. So that you can imagine all the sawdust that was inside here that kept Mabel here really busy. Yes, I know. Yes, and all that. So the owners here, or the people who rented it, put in 2 window air conditioners, the biggest ones they could find, right over the door there, and then were able to close the front door. So this was the first air conditioned establishment in Calico Rock. Was this building?
Did
So
they
anyway,
fire her then? Did they fire her then?
maybe? Oh, certainly not. No, she was a fixture in herself. Well, I tell you, we're moving. Really, we didn't know how long this tour would take, but we're going to move right along to the next building here, which is the one Borderlands. Anybody else coming in? I don't blame them if they aren't.
There's one more coming.
Okay. Well, anyway, this is the oldest building in Calico Rock. And at the time that it was built, you heard Mr. Rodman say that this was a bank. He indicated that the bank down the street, well, this is it. And they merged with the People's Bank to form the bank out at the end of the street. And then later on, in about 1924, this was the post office. And the post office was here until, I think, 1963, when it moved up on the highway in the building that is now the food room, if any of you all know where I'm talking about. That was where the post office moved, and then later it's moved to its present location. So this was the post office for a long time. Mail came on the train at 8 o'clock in the morning. Town was full of people. Donnie Mosier would back his pickup down there and untake the bags of mail, throw them in the back of the pickup, drive around, back into the back here, unload them. The mail then was put in the different boxes that the people had rented. And then when they opened there and they got their mail, then the morning mail, then the town, you look up pretty soon and there was nobody. So this was, till 1963, the post office. And after that, it was the insurance office and abstract, I think she did also, Willie Hill Matthews. And for a period of time there, after she left, it was a pizza parlor. And then along in the middle 80s, it was City Hall. The city of Calico Rock purchased the building, still own it, and it was the City Hall. The aldermen met in the chambers in the back, and this was the offices out front. And now when they moved to their present location a few years ago, this became the visitor center, And now it's also where you come to get information about the museum and the Artisans Co-op, which we're going through here. Now, when we go through this door into the co-op, I want you to take a look at the wall. Now, every building here was built on its own, and they just attached them to the building that it was next door. So this building was freestanding. Then when they built this building, they just hooked on to this building. Take a look at the wall here, that 42 inches thick. And as you're going through here, and then come on downstairs, and we'll 1903, and I think at one time it might have been a bank also. I'm not certain about that. That is not. I've never seen any really verification about that. But anyway, I know that it was used for storage a lot because of the wholesale, the Rand Wholesale Grocery, which was on up the street there. That, by the way, the Rands left when they closed and moved their wholesale grocery business to Little Rock. So there was a Rand Wholesale in Little Rock, and that was these people here that moved down there. Well, that's another story. Well, here we are in the Artisans Co-op here. How many do we have? 30? 30 artists that show there, and they're everything in here for sale. On the mezzanine upstairs is the museum, and also part of downstairs. If you haven't been here, take a look at particularly the Indian exhibit in the back, and there's a lot of interesting things here. So if you make yourself at home and visit it at your own time. Okay, in 1923, Mr. R.H. Whalen, Uncle Bob, we called him, moved his business from Pineville to this building right here, and it was a general motor. He sold everything in this building, and then after I don't know how many years after he closed it up, or it was rented by someone else, but in the early 40s, about 1944, the Perryman Hardware opened in this building. They moved from across over in East Calico Rock. They moved their building here, or their business, and it was here till about the middle 60s, 1960s, when they purchased the building across the street, or the business across the street, which was the Calico Rock Hardware Company, and so they merged the two businesses together. The Perrymans did, and they renamed it the Perryman, or kept the name Perryman Hardware. So it was the Perryman Hardware until the middle 80s, in which the Perrymans retired, and so the new owners, Chris and Carolyn Eck, who purchased it, went back to the original name. So again, it became Calico Rock Hardware. Again, Diane's dad worked for the Farrells, who owned the Calico Rock Hardware Company, and continued to work then for the Perrymans after they. How many years did he work?
30-something, I think.
30-something
but
years.
He stayed with X until they got their hands in the dough, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
How many
learned.
years were the Farrells in there?
The Farrells were there, quite a number of years. I don't know, but Mr. Perryman, the owner of the store, was a great gun collector. He had people who came from all over, I believe all over the United States, to trade guns with Uncle Elbert Perryman. And one time I was in the drugstore, which we just came from up here, This was probably early 60s or sometime. It was before the merger there, but sometime in there that Charlotte, the clerk who worked with Uncle Elbert, came running into the store one morning, and Uncle Elbert's son Reed, William Reed, was drinking coffee there, and come quick. And my Uncle Albert had a heart attack, and he died right back there in the middle of the floor. Right back there. That's just a little trivia there I happen to think of. I'm sorry. But that's kind of too personal, I guess, but necessarily. But the two brothers, Reed and Kenneth, operated the business after it merged till they sold it to the ex. Well, you know, we've almost been an hour. Windy day, burned everything, all the way down the street. 1924. Someone mentioned the flood a while ago. I've seen water right out there. So everything on this side of the street flooded. The basement and the lower part too. At some time during several times actually. I've come up Main Street in a rowboat. Okay, this right here is Floyd's Grocery. Marshall and Ethel Floyd, and I believe Mr. Floyd's around here somewhere. Marshall, are you here? Oh, okay, go on in, cool off a little bit. Let Marshall talk to you there for a minute, and then we'll move on down the street.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing today? Take your cap off, young man. Thank you very much. Come on in, y'all. Come on in here. Welcome to J.M. Floyd and Company store. We sell everything for the table. We've got canned supplies, a full line of baking goods. We've got spices, several kinds of flour, fresh and cured meat. We've got the finest fruits and vegetables delivered almost daily by the train. And plus, on top of that, we've got anything you can put in a can. In the fall, we offer a variety of locally grown and milled sweet sorghum molasses. You will taste none better. Any of you gals that's starting out in married life? Oh, I'll tell you what, we got everything for the kitchen. We got pots, pans, griddles, ladles, meat forks, sifters, rolling pins. What else could you ask for? We've got penny candy for the kids by the piece or by the sack. And gentlemen, we've got animal feed, a complete line, everything you need. Now, we also have a wide variety of cornmeal, and it's grown, it's milled here local at, I forgot the old boy's name. That's not good, is it? What's this? Jennings Grist Mill, that's right. I'm getting old and senile. Jennings Grist Mill, you'll find no worms in our meal at all. We've got everything right in the soup chip. We used to have crackers in a barrel, but now we sell them in tins or cardboard boxes. I sure do miss the old cracker barrel. I guess the new way is much more sanitary. Ladies, if you need, you bring in your containers, and we've got bulk vinegar here. Bring your container in here, open up the spigot, get as little as you need for your pickling needs. All our produce and products come from the finest wholesale grocer around. Eunice Hudson represents Batesville Wholesale Grocery. He's right around the corner of East 1st Street. Our products are delivered once a week, so everything in this store is fresh and up to date. Now, you probably heard of the fire back in 23 that wiped out Lower Main Street. That's when my wife and I built this building. Now, all the buildings on Main Street are made of stone and brick, and we haven't had a fire since. That's probably about the smartest thing we ever did. If you want to come back here and look, I saved the countertop. This is the original countertop. And my wife and I have some Ethel back here have served our local customers for over 40 years. If you want to touch it, look at it. A lot of memories. Back in 35, my wife's sister, Goldie Musk, died, giving birth to twin girls, Goldie Mae and Anna Kay. It was hard on her daddy to raise them. But my wife and I, we did everything we could to help it out. And here they are right here. They're such good girls playing around the store. They're such fine girls. Now, like most businesses in town, we're a jot 'em down store. That means we sell things on account that most folks don't have much money. So if you talk to me ahead of time, we'll work something out. You can wait till payday, you can wait until you sell your crops in the fall, bring some livestock to the auction, or until you get your war pension check. We're here to serve you people. Now, this is also a full service shop. When you come into my store, there will be someone helping you pick out everything you need, offering all our discounts and bargains you may have overlooked, and we will take your goods and your order and take it out here and put it in your automobile, your truck, or your wagon, whatever you came to town in. Ladies, sometimes Main Street's awful crowded. You might have to be out back in Pepper Sauce Alley. A lot of stairs, it's a lot lower back there. No problem. We'll carry you right down the stairs, whatever you came to town in, we'll load it for you. Come to town, you've probably got a lot of things to do. Maybe you're going to stop and eat lunch. You may want to have to go to the bank. Whatever it is, no problem. Take your order, leave it here, we'll send it for you till the end of the day. We also offer free delivery here in the Calico Rock area. No extra charge. The folks, let me tell you, the delivery boys appreciate it.
Did you have a beauty shop here in Calico Rock? You did.
I started working here when I was 19 years old.
You started working when you was 19 years old.
Right here.
Yes.
And I'm 86.
You're 86 now.
I'm 86.
Yes. Can we make an appointment maybe for a body perm or something while we're here?
I'm booked up.
Oh, you're booked up. Sorry. Well,
Ask her,
all right.
ask her when she gave her license up.
Actually,
Ask her when she just gave
when
her
did
license.
you give your license up, Melba?
About a week ago.
About a week ago. Well, we just missed out then.
It was just a couple
Well,
of
it's
years.
something.
Yeah, it was a year ago.
There's something that all of you need to know. And that is, you cannot talk with Melba or anything about it except and without bringing up an incident that occurred here in Calico Rock once. Over in front of the drugstore there, and we've talked about the fan pulling through the screen door there. Well, at one time there was an old mangy dog that liked to lay in that alcove up there to try to cool off. And one day, my father, who got tired of running that dog off, went back in the back and got a little can of carbon disulfide. Carbon disulfide, commonly known as High Life. High Life is used as a fumigant in grain bins and things like that to kill the weevils. But if you get it on your skin, it burns. So anyway, my dad went out and the dog's laying there and he put a little High Life on the back part of the dogs. Melba, would you tell us the rest of this story?
Well, I'd be glad to.
Okay.
That dog, I got a letter from my mother that day, and I worked pretty late at night, so I got it, but I got this letter from my mother, and I read it, and she said, Melba, please stop closing that shop and go home early. They say there's a lot of bad dogs in the community now, and I don't want you to get bit. Well, about the time I got that letter read, well, that dog come in the shop to see me. And it just started rolling. Well, I jumped in a chair, and I thought, well, I'll get up here and he can't get me. And I thought, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. So I go back to the back, and the old back had already fallen off and hit the ground. I thought, well, I'm dead anyhow, I might as well jump off. And I thought, no, that might just kill me. It wouldn't kill me, it just crippled me up. So I turned around and come back, and I said, stop there, because there's a petition in there. So I stopped there, and that thing was still just going like that. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try running out. So me and the dog went out at the same time. So I got in here. Clyde Estes had the grocery store right there. So but that was my first stop. So I just run in there. And when I went in there, I hit him. I just nearly knocked him down. He was just going in a row. He said, "Never, what in the hell do you mean?" I said, "I'm a bad dog."
Well, you didn't get bit anyway, and you're still alive.
I'm still alive.
And we're just so happy that you're still alive, Melba, and that you didn't get dog bit by Oh, what a story!
I was 19 when I went in this house.
Cafe. And we're fortunate. Who's first?
Home variety store.
Home variety. Okay. Right here is Mrs. Esther Perryman.
Loda.
And Ms. Loda Perryman. Now, Ms. Loda.
I'm as big as, about as big as Loda was. So, yeah.
Ms. Loda, would you tell these people what you know about this?
Well, we're very glad you stopped by the Home Variety Store. If you met Grady and Roy Perryman at the bank, Grady is my husband, and Roy is my sister and my brother-in-law. His wife and I, her name is Esther, and we decided that Calico Rock needed a store with things for women. So a couple of doors up the way is Cheney's department store, and they have women's clothes and they have yard goods and things like that. And then they're the only store in town that sells shoes. Orville Cheney has a fine store, and his wife Alma is very good with the women customers and the kids. In the back of the store, she has a whole case of dolls, and in the basement there's a photography studio. Bill Wingard has a photography studio down there. He'll take your picture and get it back to you because he develops his own pictures. This picture was made there. Just listen to me. Here I am talking about somebody else's store, not my own. Well, in this store we have sewing notions, needles, threads. We have buttons that are made from mussel shells. You may not know, but they used to take mussel shells from the White River and sell them to button makers. And that is one of the things Calico Rock has always done. Excuse me. We have women's hosiery and intimate apparel. We have pots and pans. It's a variety store. We have children's clothes like Buster Brown. This is Saturday, and Saturday is our busiest day of the week. On Saturday, we do more business than we do on the other 5 days put together. People come to town to shop, to pay bills, to eat out. One of the things that brings people to town on Saturday afternoon is the drawing. Most Saturday afternoons there's a drawing, and they'll give away a cash amount, sometimes like $25 to $50. A lot of people leave after the drawing is over, but we stay open as long as we have business. Now, this is my friend down here. She was a waitress at the Hillbilly Cafe, and she will tell you about it. You all want to walk on?
Hi, y'all. Come on down here.
They were in the same building, right? That's what. Yes, no.
Come on down to the Hillbilly Cafe. What can I do y'all for today? We serve our food fast and hot off the grill. Our specialties are hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Every day we have a blue plate special. Now today's menu is meatloaf, mashed taters, some other vegetable, I think maybe black-eyed peas, and of course you get a choice of white bread or a roll or my favorite, cornbread. And other days it may be an open-faced hot turkey sandwich or an open-faced chicken sandwich or chicken fried steak. And now get this, with every single special comes with gravy.
And for those of you who are particular about your food, we use divided plates so your peas don't roll into your taters and your gravy stays where you want it to. And the chili's good. It's not too spicy, but it's enough to wake you up. And our prices are good. They're about a nickel to a dime for each item, and that makes making change real easy. And desserts. You can't forget desserts. Essie and Everett Wiseman, they run this place. They opened up in 1926, and their mama and papa, his mama and papa, run a hotel over here across the street. I think we were over there earlier. And well, anyway, Essie, she makes the best pies you ever ate in your life, and there's nothing any better than a piece of Miss Essie's homemade pie. Got a piece of Miss Essie's homemade pie with a big scoop of vanilla ice cream just plopped down right in the middle of it. Yum, yum. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Wiseman, they looked around everywhere to find the best tasting ice cream because all the way up in Springfield, Missouri. And they come in on the train, the freight train. And the ice cream comes in on the freight train too. And it's these big round metal cylinders, and it's plopped down in the middle of a big canvas bag, and then it's all packed around with dry ice. And we've got a big freezer back here behind the counter, and we get our ice from the electric power and ice plant back over in East Calico, so our ice cream never gets running. And we have another train that comes through town though too, other than the freight train. It's called the Bull Moose, and it's a passenger train. It's not much more than about one car, but it starts out west, way out at Cotter, and it runs all the way over east to Melbourne, no, to Batesville, all the way to Batesville, and then it comes back again during the day. And a lot of people on that train get off here to shop or eat or go to a movie at the theater and have some of Miss Essie's pie and ice cream. So we welcome their business here in town. But you know, I never did figure out why they call that train the Bull Moose. I ain't never seen a moose around these parts, and I don't know anyone else who's seen a moose in these parts either. So who figured? I don't know, but that's what they call it. Oh, you're not eating today? Well, you must be waiting on a taxi cab. Well, Mr. Henderson Mayfield usually parks his big old Lincoln out here in front someplace. He must be off taking someone for a ride. He'll be back soon, so don't you worry. But now, well, Everett Wiseman, my boss, he runs a taxi service too, but he's not around here either. That's all right. He'll be right back. One of them will, so don't you worry, Annie. Now, we also have a jukebox. But you have to buy at least a Coke. And the rule is no dancing. But you know, these young people nowadays, they don't listen to anything you say, and they go right on and they dance anyway. And we've got a soda fountain, and we take Coca-Cola syrup and Dr. Pepper syrup, and we mix it with that carbonated water thing, squirter thing behind the counter. And I'm telling you, if you don't squirt that right, it goes all over the ceiling, and it goes on the floor and on the counter and on your shoes and in your hair. It makes the whole. And it took me a while, but I learned how to do it right, and now I do it right every time. But tonight, you should come back here tonight, because it'll really be jumping there. Those CCC boys, now that's the Civilian Conservation Corps. And they're off right now building a new courthouse over in Melbourne. But when they get their paychecks this afternoon after work, they'll be coming over here for their supper. And those boys, they fill the jukebox full of nickels. There's not supposed to be no dancing, but they go ahead and they ask all those local girls to dance, and some of their romances are getting kind of serious.
I run the pastime pool hall for Guy Jenkins. Now, Floyd Dawkins, he also works here whenever I'm not around, and tell you what, we have every man in the county come here at least 2 or 3 times a week. Man, they come down here and they'll smoke their cigarettes, smoke their cigars, and they'll get them a couple drinks. Just play the night away at them pool tables. I guess women are allowed in, but they don't really come around too much. Too much drinking. Cigarette smoke and cigar smoke for them. Now, the house charges 25 cents a game, and we got 3 tables inside. Now, the best players around here, though, they get to play on them, on the table up front in here. Now, we have so many gambling men in here, they will spend all day in here. I'll tell you what, now, we got one fella, he's so old he'll move so slow, that cigarette ash will get an inch or 2 long on his cigarette. And he will win, I've seen him win $20 in one night, I'll tell you what. It went it up for him. His name's Gerald Dillard. Now, he's a good player. He's one of our best, and we let him play up front. See, some of these fellas around here, they get just so caught up playing this pool that they don't want to leave. So they'll just stay all day long and cut a hole in the wall over here at the Hillbilly Cafe. So when them fellas get hungry, they bang on that wall a couple times. Get their orders. Well, we just throw them out some food and they bring it in here. Now, we make sure the dishes always get back over there to them, though. Now, past that on down the way is Hale Garner's barber shop. His dad Art started that back in 1925. You can take you a shower or a bath, 25 cents. He gets that. A lot of men on the railroad like to stop up in there. Give him a nice bath after they're working. He heats it with kerosene stove that keeps him back. That's newfangled stuff like all these automobiles coming around. Now you can go on right over there, and then you've got Austin and Myrtle Harris's grocery goods. Now Austin's butcher by trade. You go right beside there, pick out a piece of meat you want cut it, wrap it up, stick it in there, and we'll keep it in that nice white butcher paper and let you take it right on home to you. And after that, there's Ford Estes and Marshall Floyd sells this meat in their groceries too. Before Harris rented that, it was the Gardner General Merchandise. Now, back here in the pool hall, a few years ago, we had some parents, and they were a little bit mad that their sons were coming here and hanging out, spending the whole day away. So a guy went and he wrote up a paper for the boys. They had to take it home. I said, maybe some girls too. And they'd take it home, and if the parents wouldn't sign the paper, they couldn't come back, they couldn't hang out here, because we didn't need no trouble. For them kids that did get to come back, it didn't matter how old you were, how young you were. You could be the president's son, or you could be the poorest man in town, son. I'd buy you a Coke and a candy bar. And I'd give it to you, and you didn't have to pay for a lick now. And about up till 1939, we served beer here. Then I guess some women got real mad, and I guess a couple fellers too went and signed some petition saying that Israel County would have to be dry. So we went up and we signed that out. And on the last day you could buy a call, I swear we had fellas lined all the way up down the street, up the street, across the street, waiting to get their last legal drink. And boy, I tell you what, I made a couple of them mad, but they still came, and they came and played pool every night. I tell you what now. That's about all I got to say.